So this was my first ride on this bike. I had just built it up and I just wanted to share some of my thoughts about it because the only video that I can find on this is done by a guy called Hardtail Party, and he reviews I think a prototype and then re-rides it again later when some adjustments have been made. And it's kind of it was interesting to watch his video. Basically his thoughts are the bike's a bit too extreme, the frame's a bit too stiff, and the fork at 160 mil was too much, and he recommended taking it down to 150, which the owner of RSD, Alex, did. So that's what I'm riding here. I'm riding on a DVO with a 150 mil fork. I don't actually agree with Hardtail Party's comments at all, except for the stiff frame part. But it's not a bad thing, and I'm going to go through why I think that. So also what I noticed is a couple of things I just want to remark on that's different than when you order a bike from, say, Commencal or YT. And that is shipping charges, first of all. Either those are included into the RSD or it's free or whatever. But basically the price that you see on the website when you go to buy the bike, there's no extra shipping charge. That's just, I guess, included. Whereas with both YT and Commencal and probably others, there's an additional shipping charge. And I just thought that's just an interesting thing worth noting. So that's the first thing. The other thing is a lot of bikes in a box, like from Commencal or YT, come and they are more or less ready to go. And there's very little putting it together. You throw the wheels on and maybe you set up a dropper post, but more or less the bikes, usually it's sort of indexed, you want to check it over, but usually it's pretty good. This one here was more of a build process. So just if you order one, just be aware of that. You do have to, install the derailleur, set it up, index it. Same thing, put on the brakes, shorten them if you need to. Actually, I'm not entirely sure about that just because I ordered it without brakes from Alex, so maybe I can't comment on that. But it was a bit more of a build process. The headset came pressed, which I liked because that saved me from bringing it to a shop because that needs a specialty tool. But there was a bit more building involved. You basically get a frame, pressed headset, and you kind of go from there. The wheels are made and ready, but you install the discs and whatnot. So just more of a build process than with those other brands, and I think that's one thing to be aware of if you order this. So a lot of people might just take it to a shop and get them to put it together, or if you have tools and some know-how, you can do it yourself. A lot of information is online, kind of like the torque values on the adjustables dropouts. You have to look for it a little bit, but it is there. So you should have a torque wrench as well if you're going to assemble this. Anyway, so that's worth noting. It's a bit different. The other thing that is worth noting is Alex was great to deal with. I had some modifications I wanted to make. I didn't want it to come with the brakes because it's spec'd with SRAM guides, which I absolutely hate. I have, like many people, a preference for seats, so I didn't need a seat. And anyway, so on. I'm sure I was a bit annoying as a customer. From like Alex's point of view, it was probably a bit annoying, but it was nice of him to do those modifications, and I just thought that was worth noting because it was easier for me. I don't have to go on Facebook and sell these random parts to get the bike the way I want it. Same thing with the tires. It comes spec'd with Maxxis, which I don't know, a lot of people consider that the standard. A lot of people like that, but I absolutely dislike Maxxis tires. I don't think they're all that great. I puncture them regularly. It drives me nuts. There's just better tires out there. They aren't truthfully bad tires, but there's better tires. And so what I put on this one was Continentals, Cryptotals, front and rear. And it's a new tire for me, so this is just the very first ride on them. And I was actually blown away by them. So obviously it's a first ride. I need to use them more to know, but just an interesting insight there. So I am riding pretty cautiously, fairly slowly, kind of picking my way through Upper Crippler here, as you can see. And that's just because, one, I'm not used to riding hardtails anymore. I mean, there was a time where that's all I rode, and I was very kind of fluent in hardtail. I'm not here. And then also, I don't have the right settings on the fork. I still don't, I'm sure. And so I'm going a little bit more cautiously. Also, my brakes aren't bedded in, so I have less brake power than normal. And anyway, just the first ride, so I'm going a bit slow and trying to figure out the bike and challenging my fitness a little bit at the same time, just because it is more exercise to ride the hardtail, a little bit harder to do. The bike itself, I love the way it looks. I love the straight top tube into the stays. I think it looks phenomenal. And then I'm just going to touch on the frame stiffness, because Hardtail Party says it's too stiff, and there's definitely a softer riding steel hardtails than this one. I've owned quite a few steel hardtails actually. Last one was a common Sal. It rode pretty soft. It had some shape stays in the back that gave it a little bit extra spring. Over a little bit of chatter, you almost couldn't tell it was a hardtail. It was probably one of the softest ones. The other one that rode really soft was a Brody a long time ago. No one's going to be familiar with the model just because it was so long ago, but it had like a Reynolds 851 tube set, and it was phenomenal. Other than that, it's kind of been a mixed bag. This one does ride stiffer. It's by no means anywhere close to an aluminum hardtail for stiffness. It doesn't really chatter the same way. It does have a level of stiffness to it that I actually think is good, but then keep in mind I'm heavier. I like kind of more burly stuff. I'm the kind of guy that puts the 35 mil bar on because I don't like the 31.6. So for me, I tend to prefer this actually. So I actually think it's the right amount of stiffness. It still dampens the trail chatter, but it definitely is stiff. So I agree with Hardtail Party's comments about that. And there are softer riding bikes. The Kona ESD, I think, is probably a bit softer riding, for an example. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for, what you want, how much flex you want. Steel hardtails, they do all ride a bit different. I like how it rides. I think it's great. I just need to get used to it a bit more and get my fitness up a little bit. But it is definitely a stiffer riding bike. I don't agree with his remarks regarding the fork, or with kind of the rest of anything he said in regards to this bike. I think you could ride this bike as it comes with the 150 for general trail purposes, and I don't think there's anything that would be poorly done with it. Like it rides really well, it tracks well, it corners well. There's the slack head angle isn't a downside at all. It climbs super well. The seat tube angle is, I think, perfect for this bike. A super comfortable climbing position. I really liked it, and I'm sure I'm going to like it time and time again, so that's why I'll just comment on that confidently now. I think that's fantastic. So I think with the current fork, honestly, you could ride this for trail to anything else, and the frame's not that heavy. I saw some comments online saying that the frame is 9 pounds or something. It absolutely isn't. I didn't weigh it, but the frame's not that heavy. It's really pretty good, and again, like, I love the shape of it. I think this is a phenomenal frame. I think this is probably one of the premier frames on the market for anything from trail to gnarlier riding. And then it comes to the fork. I think it would be better with a 160 mil fork, just for what its sort of stated purpose is. I think, if you're going to ride trails, the 150 probably maybe is better. I don't know. But 160, I think, is where this needs to be. I mean, down this section here, I bottomed this fork out probably, over the course of this ride, probably 6-7 times, and it bottoms out hard. So there is a fix to that, and it's, a setup thing, so I'm going to get to that. I do think this is probably a good fork, but it's a bit frustrating to set up just because a lot of, like, the off the top, the negative air spring, well, it's not an air spring, it's coil in this one, you have to take the whole thing apart to adjust it, so I think that's a bit brutal. But again, that's got nothing to do with the bike, it's more of a spec choice. I do think the fork will be good in time. It's just going to take a while to get it there. But yeah, the bike itself, really good. Alex was great to deal with. And this is just like first impressions only. So yeah, I'll do a full ride review later on with my full thoughts. And again, interesting. Well, I'll put in more air, I guess, at home. I'm already over the recommended air, but you know what? We'll just see, right? Especially on an enduro fork. I mean, come on. Oh yeah, jeez. Yeah, just so aggressive. Right here. Okay. Didn't hit bottom there. So I'll just leave it like this for now. Whoa. Running almost 140 psi in the fork. Cool. Ow. Right. About this, I just built it up. It's my first ride, upper lower crippler. I've got the Crip Total front and rear tires, Saint brakes. I've got the seat I like, Silverado on there. Kona Wawa 2 pedals. And I think the rest is how the bike comes. Oh, I've got a bash guard on there too. It's a, I forget what it's called. Anyway, Black Spire. Anyway, otherwise this is stock. The DVO fork, I've got about almost 140 psi in there, which is a little more than what it says I need. This thing hit bottom many times. It's super rough when it does, so apparently I need to add fluid to increase bottom out resistance. So I don't like to rush to judgment on suspension because it's very complicated and a lot of it's set up, and this is just a first ride. So yeah, I've got about 140 psi, 2 clicks more on the low speed compression. I've increased this, slowed the rebound about 3 or 4 clicks from where it came stock, and so far that feels pretty close, aside from the bottom out problems. And I'd probably want to wind the off the top spring so a little bit more supple on the top, seeing as I'm going to have to add more air pressure. I'm also going to update it to 160 just because the riding I do, I think that's better. Weird thing to notice, but these grips here, what are they? Lizard Skins North Shore. I love them. I normally run ODI Rogues, which I also love. I might like these more. They're pretty close, about the same diameter. The Continental tires, on my other bike I've got Der Baron, Der Kaiser. The Kaiser's on the back is good. The Baron on the front I don't like. It gives up a bit of grip. The Benchmark tire is a wild enduro in my opinion, front and rear. And the Kaiser in the back is good. It's, you know, almost as good or as good. The front is lacking. It's similar to a DHF for grip, which I don't like. These Crip Totals so far, I love them. I think it might be the new king, but again, early days. I'll have to keep you updated. And that's it. Those are my first thoughts. Easy bike to ride. Good craftsmanship, anti-rust treatment inside, lots of little details, super low top tube, which is nice and straight, which I like, and adjustable dropouts, which I have almost all the way back. So yeah, so far I like it, and we'll see how it goes.